Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the NEN webinar. My name is Anju, and on behalf of NEN and Vadhani Foundation, I would like to invite you all for this webinar, Design Thinking, and would also like to introduce our expert speaker, Mr. Rishabh Jol. He's an advisory professional with a penchant for finance, analytics, and design thinking, an MBA from Bentley University, and an executive degree in design thinking from the University of Pennsylvania. Rishabh started out as a business advisor at CEB, where he thought partnered with more than 100 chief audit executives and chief risk officers. He also led the launch of jabongworld.com, after which he founded Kashi Vinu Advisory Services, where he provides data analysis and research support to politicians and corporations. Before I hand over the floor to Rishabh, there are a few reminders for the audience. You will all be on mute. You may ask questions by typing in the panel provided. Over to you, Rishabh. I'm making you the presenter right now, and you can start off with the presentation now.
All right. Thank you so much, Anju. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. I've just um, accepted myself as a screen. So just let me know if you are able to see my screen. I'm
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. We are able to see your screen, Rishabh.
perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much. So let's begin. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, our friends and fellow entrepreneurs all over the world. Welcome to this webinar on design thinking. Um, it's I can't thank National Entrepreneurship Network enough for the effort that they are putting in to promote entrepreneurship in the country and in the region. I think as entrepreneurs, sometimes journey can get a little lonely, and you need organizations and ecosystem enablers like Vadhani Foundation, like the National Entrepreneurship Network, to take people forward and keep them committed and passionate towards their vision and business. Um, Anju has done a really good job of introducing me, so but I'll just tell you very briefly about who I am. So I started design thinking from University of Pennsylvania. I was part of their social impact strategy group, wherein you study how to apply design thinking to solve messy problems, which have a lot of social change angle including into them. Um, uh, other than the work and education, what I'm really passionate about is solo traveling and writing. In fact, I've written two fiction novels. Uh, they are available to purchase on Flipkart and Amazon. So I thought I'll just put a plug in there. And I think the reason I wanted to highlight travel and writing aspect of my personality is because a lot of times design thinking is about empathizing with your customer, empathizing with the situation and the problem, and how you can kind of come up with a solution which you arrive at by connecting with your constituents. And travel and writing allows me to do so. There would be opportunities for you to figure out what are those things that allow you to be a better design thinker through your passion. Uh, before we dive into the content, let me thank a very important person who has been instrumental in me bringing this message to you, uh, Doreen Lorenzo. So those of you who know about the field of design thinking would probably know her already. But for those of you who don't know who Doreen Lorenzo is, so Doreen is at the pantheon of design thinking. She led one of the top design thinking firms in the world called Frog Design, and she was there for 16 years before moving to Quirky, where she led the growth and held their strategic priorities. She's currently an active angel investor and mentor. I met her at a recent networking event in Bangalore, and despite being supremely busy, she was extremely generous with her time and guidance. So she helped me put together this following insights that I'm going to share with you on design thinking. Uh, yeah, so thank you again, Doreen, and let's begin. So what is design thinking? Look, design thinking can feel overwhelming. There are multiple definitions out there. Many highlight what design thinking is, and an equal number of those highlighting what design thinking is not. So it can be daunting to get the concept. Is it just about product design? Is it about systems thinking? Is it all of it? Does it apply to every problem that you're gonna find in your business? So I will attempt to answer each of these questions through examples. My hope is that by the end of the 45 odd minutes that you spend with me, you will be able to develop a better sense of this concept. But let's first understand what design thinking process seeks to do for you. And before I highlight something on this slide, just want to apologize if you're hearing a little bit of background noise. I'm in Bangalore at this conference called the Surge Conference. It's they're supposed to be the largest conference in the world, but they're kind of organizing it in Bangalore, and I was attending it, and I took this 1 hour to speak with you, and uh, there are a few people passing, so like we'll just ignore that, and I'll try to ensure that the disruption is minimal. So yeah, so let's first understand what design thinking process seeks to do for you. As this simple but powerful chart developed by Daniel Newman at the Central Office of Design highlights, design takes you from data slash research slash insights to clarity, and it is through a process of rapid prototyping. So let me stop here for you to appreciate this graph. We hear and read so much about big data. Nowadays, everybody is kind of talking about what data and big data is, but it carries a lot of noise as well. So one often struggles with how to use big data, how to make sense of it for better business decisions. Design and design thinking helps you cross that chasm. So what will you learn today? So there are three things that I'm going to go over in this presentation with you. First is you will learn what design thinking is. Second, you will learn how it has been successfully used. And third, you will learn the frameworks to put it into practice. So look, design thinking is such a vast topic, and it requires such expertise and time that it will be presumptuous of me to think that I can teach and you can.
Yeah, so diamond is a good symbol because of two things. Okay. Diamond is Ratna. Ratna.
Yeah, sorry. So to so that it will be presumptuous for me to think that you can uh, I can teach and you can learn in 45 minutes. So what we will be focusing on our discussion today is about visual design. Designing, which is so visual design is designing product artifacts after understanding consumer pain points and then designing solutions that motivate customer behavior. So this aspect of design thinking came up as the most pressing problem that that the members in the NEA network face. So is design thinking more than that? Of course it is. There are aspects to design thinking that relate to systems thinking, and I will cover those topics in subsequent webinars that we will build on from the content we have here. But for our discussion today, let us agree on the definition.
Webinar going on right now.
So there was some other.
So somebody.
So, so design thinking is a human-centered, creative, iterative, and a collaborative approach to finding the best ideas and ultimate solution. So let us go through the definition of all four key tenets of this definition that we see on the screen right now. But it is important for us to spend time on really understanding this definition. So as this definition shows, design as a discipline uses the designer's sensibility and methods to match what people need and what is technologically feasible and economically viable. So that should then feed into your business strategy and into your customer value and market opportunity. So let us understand the first aspect, which is that design thinking is human-centered. So, like I said before, design thinking starts with empathy. You start from what people, users, consumers need from you or want to do when they interact with you and your product. So their motivations and problems, what are the problems that they're trying to solve? Now, to quote Steve Jobs here, he was famously asked in terms of where does his product development begin? Does he start with technology or does he start with experience? And he said that it is always better to start from a standpoint of how the consumer will experience the solution and then design a technology around it, rather than start from technology and then adapt that technology to user behavior. So that should give you a glimpse into why empathy is key. It's not about you, the entrepreneur. You need the ability to understand and share the feelings of your customers. So design has to be set in the context of customer market that you are targeting. So let me explain this with an example. How many of you have heard of the taxi service Ola? I'm sure most of the members and clients dialing in from India have, but for the benefit of the friends joining from rest of the world, Ola is a taxi service in India much like Uber. And on the first look, it actually appears like an Indian version of Uber. As you can see on the slide, the app design of Ola looks very similar to that of Uber, although not as intuitively designed probably. But here's the kicker. It has 75% of the market, while Uber has only 5%. And then let me add here, these are data from Ola's last year's uh, submissions in terms of financial performance by their investors, right? So what's going on here? Why does Ola have such a huge market share? Now, there are a few factors, one of them being Ola introduced cash payments, and Uber, which had brought in the systems from US and applied it to the Indian market without truly understanding the Indian context, came up with the cash payments much later, which due to which they couldn't capture the bulk of the market. Secondly, Ola launched something which is very particular to the Indian context, is Ola Auto, which Uber did not have. And the third, and I think this is something that I've gotten from interacting with a lot of people who work at Ola and at Uber, and especially the drivers, and having conversations with Bhavesh Agarwal on a couple of occasions, they focus a lot on driver delight. They treat the drivers, because again, being an Indian company, understanding of the Indian context, much like their own family, and that is one of the key reasons which undermines all the other reasons we've discussed for Ola stealing a march over Uber. Ola's success has forced Uber to change its global standard policies to compete. So that is what is important. You have to, whenever you go into a market, you have to understand its design language. Here is the thing, the primary language of countries in the developed world such as US is convenience, while the primary design language of countries in emerging world such as India is of practicality. So as a business, if you want to succeed in any country, you need to learn the design language of that market. You must focus on understanding the local culture and context. You cannot just create a Me Too company and apply your models from those countries in new markets. You need to talk to customers. And in fact, Doreen kind of validated this hypothesis. She highlighted that it frustrates her how little time companies spend talking to their customers. So if you walk away from this webinar learning just one thing for growing your business, learn this. You have to talk to your customers more than your competition does. Empathize with them. It will give you a new perspective of the problems that they are facing, and this in turn will give you insights into new solutions that you may have not thought of before. Alright, so now moving on to the second aspect of our definition, which is that design thinking is a creative process. Now, design thinking stimulates you to look beyond and look at the situation differently and come up with a new solution that go beyond and improve the existing alternative. In this, integrative thinking is the key. You need the ability to look at the different aspects of a problem. Imagine, who would have imagined a library without people or books? A library without books was unthinkable, and now it just almost seems inevitable. Earlier we used to go to the libraries, today now libraries come to you. So in your business, think about what could be the creative solution that you can remove, say, the physical aspect of it and move it virtually, and that is where innovation could lie. Moving on to the third aspect of the definition, that design thinking is iterative. And as they say, the road to success does not follow a straight line. The more you are able to loop through, which is understand, create, and learn cycle, the higher chance you have of getting good results. As a design thinker, stop discussing and start working. You have to make your ideas tangible. Do prototyping. Prototyping is essentially thinking with your hands that allows you to test your hypothesis. So again, failure is a necessary part of the process. Experiment of trial and error are key when you think about design thinking as an iterative process. Finally, the final aspect of our design thinking definition is that design thinking is collaborative. Working collaborative in groups to devise solutions for problems, it what it does, it allows you to discard the bad ideas, hold on to the pieces of the good ones, and eventually arrive at the right solution. So let me give you an example of one of the leading design thinking organizations, IDEO, that pioneers collaborative design thinking. So I had an opportunity to observe one of their brainstorming sessions in their Boston office. What was fascinating for me, that their goal wasn't to come up with that perfect idea. Their goal was to come up with a lot of ideas, a lot of different solutions, and then have a very collaborative and open mind to come up with wild solutions as well. And that is the only way you get to good ideas, is to have a lot of ideas to choose from. So one of the suggestions I would have for you as entrepreneurs to run design thinking sessions with your team is to allow them to come up with as uh, out there solutions as possible. And that is when you will see, when they start thinking on the periphery of what is possible and what is not, the real kick solution will come in. So before I move forward, I just wanted to highlight this really quote that I really like. It's by John Colco, who's the VP of Design at Blackbird. He mentioned that design thinking is an essential tool for simplifying and humanizing. And I think you will see this trend again and again of humanizing the problem. This slide is probably the most important slide that you're going to see in this presentation. In fact, as we share this presentation with you after the session, I would recommend you to take a printout of the slide and put it on your workstation and review it and view it and make it part of your work process and the work process of your team. This slide was developed and promoted by universities like Stanford and innovation firms like IDEO. It says that design thinking is a user-focused user-focused and a possibility-oriented innovation methodology that any team can apply to build creative solutions. So basically, design thinking uses a multi-phase approach. As you navigate through a series of phases that bounce between what we call focus and flare, it is divergence and convergence, the diamond model to be exact. So what you do is you first empathize with user as the first step. You understand the experience, you observe users and their behavior in context of their lives, and you see how they engage with people in conversations and interviews. Then you take those needs and insights that you get from empathizing to define the problem. You then it for in a way you have to define a problem worth solving, and like it says on the slide, have a bias towards action, like problem that could be solved. Then thirdly, you ideate, and there are a number of techniques that you can use to ideate and generate many broad and bold ideas about how you can address the challenges that you've defined. So what I would recommend you to do is to explore a wide variety of large quantity of ideas that go beyond the obvious solutions to a problem. So you have to separate the generation evaluation of ideas to give imagination a voice, so to say. Fourth step in this process is the rapid prototyping. And I can't stress enough how important it is for you to prototype, which is thinking with your hands. The goal of the prototype is to create something that helps you learn more about the user and the problem. It is very different from creating a prototype that takes, say, 6 months and 1 million to build. It's about doing things in hours, maybe days, uh, and just a prototype can be anything. It can be a storyboard, a cardboard, a duct tape representation, a role playing session, whatever. whatever, you have to go for the lowest resolution prototype. It's kind of better to engage in the imagination of your team to help fill the gaps where new ideas exist. Finally, in this process, what you need to do is you have to iterate through these processes and test the prototype with users. If you aren't testing your ideas, then you're not following through on the entire process. You have to test early, you have to test often, and just ensure that you're not testing to impress someone. It is for you, and neither to validate your idea. It is for team to collectively learn about it. So now doing this whole process before you even begin your product development cycle, it does five things for you. It improves your customer focus. It increases the number of compelling options that you have. It allows you to get an agreement on priorities. It gives you a foresight into viability issues, and finally, it improves your odds of success. Uh, please take time to go through the slide, read up more on this, and put it on your workstation. This is something that will be very important for you to bring in your daily process. Let me now take you through some examples of where design thinking has been applied. So here is the example of Embrace. Um, this is one of the most celebrated examples in design thinking. If you've heard of this one before, it is worth exploring again, and if you haven't, pay very close attention, as it is the epitome of human-centered design. So there are the problem is there were 20 million premature or low birth weight babies born each year, and premature and low birth weight babies are extremely delicate and are prone to death essentially. So temperature in the room could feel like ice water and all. So what these traditional solutions available in the market price the incubator that a premature baby would need are at $25,000. But and like even if you could make it available to mothers, the thing was the team from Stanford went to Nepal and studied what the problem was, and they realized that the females who were giving birth generally were giving birth in their home. They did not have the facility to go to the hospital. And so what was the solution? You could have brought the incubator to their houses, but the thing was the power supply was so inefficient that you couldn't run it, or it wouldn't work. So the team you did user empathy. They went and understood what the problem was. They understood the context. They tried to realize the problem. And this team from Stanford, what they process came up with is this Embrace infant warmer. So they looked at how kangaroo mothers keep their babies warm in their body pouch, and they created something very similar, which was less than 1% of the cost of a traditional warmer, and it kept the baby's temperature uh, relatively safer so that they could survive. Because of this, they were able to save thousands and thousands of lives, and now they've created like a separate company altogether for this, and they've been one of the most emphatic champions of design thinking coming out from the Stanford Design School. Um, Let me take you to another example, which again is my personal favorite. It's an MRI machine that GE developed. So again, it's a fantastic technology, and you would go for an MRI test, and it tells you a lot about your health, and you can take decisions on that. Allows you to live longer with that knowledge. But what they realized was that when they wanted children to use MRI technology, more than 80% of children had to be sedated before use of this technology, because they were scared of how the machine operated and the sounds that it made. So the guy who had created the machine, he said that let me see what the environment children enjoy in. So he went to play schools, he went to children amusement parks. So looking at that, he started prototyping the machine. So what he did was he said that let's engage children in a story. So he designed the MRI machine in a way that it looked like a spaceship or a jungle, and everybody like they train doctors to participate with children and nurses to kind of train them on. So they would give children stories that you're part of the ship and you're passing through a shark infested area, and your submarine will get attacked if you make any noise. You have to keep quiet. And children were enjoying this, and they were kind of part of the whole story. And and in a way now they did not have to be sedated. Everybody was taking it, using the process, and enjoying it. So that was one of the best things that happened. Uh, Led to a new problem though, that kids wanted to do it again and again. It's a costly process, so can't be done often. So here's what you see in terms of what the real essence of design thinking or the visual design that we're discussing today is, that you have to be customer centric, you have to be customer focused. You start with customer, the quality, efficiency, service, reliability, everything starts with the customers. So what can you take away from the sessions today? The first thing is, you have to understand and identify who your user is. You have to empathize with them. Second is, you have to generate ideas in collaborative group settings. So empathy, collaboration with team, empathy with the consumer, collaboration with the team, and finally, you have to do rapid prototyping. Prototype cheaply, quickly, often. Like, you can take any example of your business and any problem that you're solving. Try to create like a lowest common denominator, lowest cost solution that will help you visualize what the solution will look like in real life. And I think that is where you need to start. So these are the three things I would want you to take away from this. Again, you have to think like a designer. Don't, and this is a very important. So when I was studying at UPenn, one of my professor who teaches design thinking has been teaching for the last 7-8 years now. She said something which had a very profound impact on me, and she said, you never design nouns, you design verbs. So you don't design what, you design an action, what it intends to do for you. So always keep this concept in mind, that you never design nouns, you design verbs. And finally, I'm going to leave you with this image, which explains what designing the product or slash designing the noun means, and what designing a verb or designing an experience means. Um, yeah, with that, I will close and open for questions if we have any, and yeah, I'll let Anju take over. Thank you so much for indulging with me.
Thanks so much, Rishabh, for that wonderful presentation. We're still waiting for people to write in some couple of questions. Now, there are two or three questions that have come up. One of the questions
Uh-huh.
being asked, one of the entrepreneur Rakesh is asking, how do design thinking and traditional quantitative market research coexist? Can they really coexist? That's one of the question that he's asking.
Right. So uh, one again, it's a brilliant question, and I think it's a question that deserves to be delved. I think if you go back to the beginning of the presentation where we were talking about how right now big data is a buzzword. It's all pervasive. People are talking about getting customer insights, getting customer data through insights, and making decisions based on that data. And your marketing analytics tools are there, which big data supports, and those give you a lot of insights about customer behavior, and they should definitely be tracked and they should definitely be used. However, data can only tell you uh, one this only so much. Uh, so I'll answer that by giving you examples of two companies, and which should kind of clarify that there is no one best approach and there is no one size fits all, but there are merits of both the technologies. So for example, Google and Apple. Google is a heavily analytics based company. They would do all they collect a lot of customer data, and all the decisions that they take are very, very data driven. And then you have one of its competitors, Apple, for example, and where Steve Jobs had sometimes famously said that if you ask customers what they want, they will only tell you what they have experienced so far. As a leader in, as an entrepreneur, as a leader in technology, as someone who is say at the cutting edge of stuff happening, you have to take a leadership position on what customers should want. And once you give customers what they can have, that changes their definition of what they want. So in a way, there are two schools of thought. As a business, you have to take a decision on what will work best for you. There is definitely a space for analyzing data and using traditional methods, but at the same time, you have to complement it with design thinking as well, wherein you kind of understand and empathize with the user and design solutions that he will need, he or she will need, which they don't even know exist. And I will go back to one of those famous quotes in from 1930s, when Henry Ford was asked that when Henry Ford was interviewed, and he said that if I went to people and asked them uh, how what their idea of faster mobility was, they would have told me that they wanted a faster horse. Nobody would have thought about automobile. So that is where I think using design thinking to be at the cutting edge of technological progress or at the product innovation is what I would recommend entrepreneurs to do. But at the same time, yes, focus on collecting as much information as possible from your customers. Does that answer the question? I mean, um,
Thank
or I mean, if you or team and anyone would like to add something, would love to know.
No. Thank you, Rishabh. I think that pretty much, yeah, it does answer the question. Now we have two people asking similar question, Vivek and Niranjan. They're asking, can you give them some Indian examples on design thinking?
Okay, sure. So one of the examples that we saw was around around Ola, for example, the way they were able to bring in, and again, design thinking does not necessarily have to only be at the product level. It has to be at a business level, wherein, because we are talking about visual design right now, we are talking about how customers can work with uh, like you have to go through with the customer on a customer journey. So Ola did that wonderfully, wherein they understood that most of the people who are used to using public transport or who hail cab services, their primary mode of transport outside of trains and buses is an auto, which international company will not. I mean, a knowledge that international company will not have. So essentially, what they were able to do was they were able to bring in this innovation of bringing on Ola Auto much before Uber could even think about this local context, and at the same time, the cash payments. So this is one of the prime examples of design thinking that is used. The other thing is, like I said, there are no set approaches. You have to do a lot of user testing and a rapid prototyping. So I would encourage entrepreneurs to go and look at the sites of Make My Trip and Clear Trip side by side. Now, Make My Trip is a very, very heavy website. They have so many things going on together at the same time on the slide, while the Clear Trip is a very simple design. uh, Now, it could in a way be compared to something like a Google or a Yahoo. Google has a very simple and intuitive design, while Yahoo provides a lot of information. In the search field, Google trumps Yahoo in terms of website usability by leaps and bounds. Similarly, when you come to Make My Trip and Clear Trip, going by that logic, Clear Trip, with its simple and easy to use design, should be a site that people prefer to use and get information from. But when it comes to airline industry, it's just people want more information and they like to see a busy slide, and that's why Make My Trip as a site does much better than Clear Trip. So in terms of, is there one set of value that you can follow and be ready with? with the right design for your customer? Answer is no. So you have to prototype, you have to do A/B testing to see what customer will like, and go through these examples of companies like Make My Trip and ClearTrip to see how it is very different from industry to industry. And I think thirdly, one of the best I think designed apps that I've used in an Indian context in a long time is this app called Haptic. And what it did was, uh, for example, there what they realized is that now people are all into texting, and a lot of times they have to go on various sites to do price comparisons and sometimes call up their friends, do all kinds of uh, uh, social shopping. So what they've designed is they've designed this product wherein you can interact with one of their agents, and he will do kind of all the work for you and give you the best thing that you need from various sites. So in a way, they are bridging the gap for people who may not have kind of the access to various sites, and giving you a very list by list of items that you may want, and they will access various sites for you to give you the right product. So these, I think, would be the three examples in the Indian context from design thinking standpoint that I would recommend you to look into.
Thank you, Rishabh. Moving on to the next question, one of the entrepreneur, Ismail, is asking, could you suggest some research areas when it comes to design thinking? I mean, what could be what could possibly be some research areas in design thinking?
Sure. I think one of the things uh, that one could look into uh, is the Stanford D School. So if you want to learn more about what design thinking is, there is a wonderful resource out there for all of you to access. It's the design school that was started by Tom Kelly, who is the head of IDEO, and he started that school in Stanford, and it was backed by Steve Jobs from Apple. So that school is actually like at the pantheon of design thinking. Anybody who wants to learn, and what they've done is they've gone ahead and made all their resources available for people to access for free. So anything that you want to learn, that should be your first and the primary source, and it's a wonderful source. Free materials. They do a lot of workshops. They give you tools to conduct workshops in your companies. That is one place for you to learn more. The second is about this company called IDEO. Now IDEO is headed by was headed by Tom Kelly, and they started the D School. But a lot of resources that IDEO has and a lot of examples that IDEO has are their work with clients, which are completely different way of solving problems that you will find anywhere else. And they've also made a lot of their case studies public, so might be a good idea to look into how they approach problem solving. And just to give you two quick examples, in fact, I came across this. So I had the fortune of visiting IDEO's office in Boston and spending a day with them, and what they shared some of their examples with me, and one of the examples that I found very fascinating was so IDEO was engaged by Bank of America to solve for a problem, which was that they had these Bank of America had these ATMs all over the country, but they realized that not many people were using it, and they wanted to know why. So what IDEO did was they sent their research team to see how people were using ATM, and they realized that when people were using the ATM, they would kind of keep looking behind them. And earlier, people thought that okay, maybe they are like the ATM is right in the middle of the road. They are probably worried that somebody might mug them. What? But when they empathize with the customer, when they applied these rapid prototyping principles, IDEO realized that we as humans generally get distracted. So once you are taking out money from an ATM, if a car passes by or a person passes by, you just get distracted and you look back, and that kind of makes your experience of using the ATM that that was you kind of sometimes forget your PIN. So what they did was a very, very simple solution. They located very small mirrors along with every ATM. So when you were withdrawing money, if anything was going past, you could see that reflection in the mirror. You didn't have to like turn back and get distracted by it. Which essentially meant was that the experience of the user in using the ATM increased, and the only thing IDEO needed to do was to apply these small mirrors, uh, and that was the beauty. And again, one of the most celebrated cases which Bank of America and IDEO kind of highlighted, that this is the power of design thinking. You can use a lot of consultants to try and solve the problem, but once you truly understand the real pain point of the customer and why and how they're interacting with your product, you will be able to devise solutions which are not only innovative but at the same time economical as well, and increase your efficiency by multiple times. So definitely look at D-School, definitely look at IDEO. There are tons of videos out there that people like Tom Kelly have uploaded on YouTube, so you can look at those videos as well, and that would be a very good start for you to uh, kind of learn more about design thinking. And lastly, we highlighted about Doreen Lorenzo. She works with Frog Design, or she used to work with Frog Design, and Frog Design also has kind of provided a lot of their materials online. If anything, if there is any other resources that I come across, I will be happy to share. And if you have any specific questions, I'm happy to kind of answer them about specific resources. But these three resources should keep you covered for learning the basics about design thinking for sure.
Thank you, Rishabh, for that. Another question by Datta. He says, how to use design thinking in service industry in India?
Uh, could you be a little more specific in terms of which service industry? Okay, so I'll um, see. I mean, there are various ways by which you can service your customers, uh, say better in a way. Uh, Take an example of in Paytm, and uh, and I'm uh, I'm answering this question with a complete understanding, and I would plead ignorance that I don't know what exact specific industry he's talking about, but more broadly in a services in the services sector or in the service industry, if you look at banking and financial services as a product that many people in India would use now. Paytm has completely revolutionized how you interact with money. So let me if in I don't know if people how many of you are aware about Kickstarter, but look at that website once. And what happens in Kickstarter is people kind of say that they want to create a product and ask people to pitch in money for that. The biggest uh, type of project that gets funded on Kickstarter and is the most popular one is designing a wallet. So one thing is very clear: people all over the world are not happy uh, with the wallet that they keep in their back pocket or that they carry in their other bags. Uh, so there are 40% of the projects on Kickstarter are projects to redesign the wallet that you have. And now look at something like a Paytm, which has completely made it cashless. So you only need to have a mobile in a mobile app, and you can store money in that. And there are many mobile wallets. I'm not calling Paytm as a pantheon of innovation, and mobile wallets have existed before as well. But the way they've been able to understand the consumer psyche in India and able to offer them say a mobile experience, and being very pervasive with advertising in terms of some of the advertising that they were able to do in terms of having uh, people use Paytm in occasions where only cash was used, which was um, in festivities or paying for an auto and stuff like that. So uh, in an Indian context, in an Indian services context, you have to think about design thinking of how you can take the service from in person uh, to digital. But that's only one part of it. There are other parts wherein, so for example, a company like a Seek Sherpa, it will, it prides in giving customers experience which is very customized, very uh, uh, like completely driven to their need, and that is also one of the big innovations that you could have in the Indian context. But again, with full understanding that we need more specifics about the question to be able to answer it.
Thanks for that, Rishabh. So he just responded back saying that he's talking about the customer service, or basically, to be more precise, auto service industry.
Okay. So again, in the office service industry, like some of the examples that I've come across, uh, be it from a standpoint of your companies like that rocket bagged companies like Office, yes. So there is a the administration of procuring, say, office supplies is completely broken. So how do you ensure that you're able to bring more efficiency into that? That would be through a product like an Office, yes.
Rishabh,
Similarly,
sorry to interrupt. He said auto service industry.
oh, auto service industry.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, I'll. I think this is something that I could take offline. Right now, I wouldn't have a very specific example for him, but I know one of my entrepreneur friends. What he's uh, again not in the vicinity of the question that he's asked, but not directly. But one of my friends, he has what he's started is he started something called a, super bike rental service. So in a way, you not only have a uh, so basically essentially a Zoom car for super bikes. In a way, what he realized was that people who are looking for uh, who would want to use superbikes are the ones who want to kind of use it as an experience. So create a product wherein you would have people get superbikes on a hourly or on a day basis without having to kind of buy. Similarly, I'll give you an example of and again, I hope this in the vicinity will answer the question. Is you have to look at something like an industry like an agriculture. Now, very traditional industry. Not many people kind of innovate in this area. Even farmers don't want their son to become farmer. But what we are seeing is a lot of innovation happening. There are many people who are designing new solutions for this industry. Now, one of the solutions I came across was that rather than have farmers buy farm equipment or lease farm equipment, why not offer farming as a service? And why not, if by that logic, why not have people uh, pay for farming service as they would pay for an Uber? So what they could do is a company will, so this company that I know, what they do is they charge a per hectare rate. Let's say it is 10,000 rupees per hectare. They will send their trained personnel with trained equipment to the farmer's field. They will do all the farming activity related to harvesting, ripper binding, all kind of things, and then they will collect the cash for doing the farming activity and take the machine with them. So now the entire cost for farmer gets taken care of. He doesn't have to worry about finding labor, managing labor. It cost of buying or leasing or keeping the machinery goes down. So this is a very kind of say innovative solution that has come up in India. It has not come up elsewhere in the world, but people who understand the local context and can design solution around it are the ones who are going to succeed. So again, I know I haven't specifically answered the question, but in the periphery of how you can design solutions, I hope this is helpful.
Thank you, Rishabh. Another question by Ismail, and there's another entrepreneur who also wants to know about this. So they're asking about can you give some examples of design thinking applications in education sector, or maybe education technology sector, ed tech sector, university, etc.
All right. Okay. Again, good question, and this is one sector where a lot of innovation has started happening. I would recommend everybody to look at this company called the Rumi Project. and so it's RUMI, and then Project. It's a Canadian-based company. In fact, in 2014, they won the award for. So there was this global entrepreneurship event that happens every year, and they nominate and select a few companies which are very innovative and per every sector. And Ruby Project won that award in the education sector. What they did was very simply what they realized is that the public education system in developing countries mostly is broken, and it's not because of the lack of quality teachers or lack of infrastructure or lack of resources or books. It's primarily a combination of a lot of different things, but primarily because you don't you can't provide children provide enough engagement with children. Teachers definitely play a huge role, but sometimes the motivation of teachers is also lacking in a public education system. So what they did was they uh, raised a lot of money to buy a lot of tablets, cheap tablets. They bought a lot of cheap tablets from China, and what they did was, as per every class, they put in the content of offline content on these tablets. And what they did was they gamified the whole system, wherein children could not only get the concept through tablet in the form of a game rather than in the form of a text that they need to read, and depending on a teacher who needs to kind of make sure that they understand. It was a globally accepted curriculum designed in the form of a game, which depending on the aptitude of the child, irrespective of his age and irrespective of his class, depending on his aptitude, would give them one level after another, which allows people to kind of use have this innovation in technology, and they were able to create a massive impact, and in fact are doing really well. So that is one company in edtech that I would like to lead you to check out. The second example, and I think it is probably a more interesting one, is that is of this company called Duolingo, and now it has become the largest provider of second language training in the world. And in fact, very recently on Reddit, there were the AMA threads that they have. So Bill Gates was running an AMA thread, and he was asked what app does he use to learn different languages, and he said Duolingo. And then the founder of Duolingo replied to that saying that, so I've designed Duolingo to be available to everybody for free. And imagine this, uh, someone in a developing country who wants to learn a new language can access it, who is purely doing it to escape poverty, and at the same time, the richest man in the world is also using the same app to learn the language, which means more money cannot buy you better education. And that was a very, very powerful statement to make. Similarly, what Duolingo also does is that there are around 90,000, there are around 90,000 native Irish speakers, but on the Duolingo app, there are more than 1 million people who signed up to learn Irish. So in a way, there are 10 times more people in the world wanting to learn Irish than there are actually native speakers of Irish existing in the world. And these are some of the innovations that have come up in the edtech sector that people have been able to kind of design and take forward.
Thanks, Richard. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
I'll just take two more questions now. So
Uh-huh.
one of the question by Rachna Pujar, she's asking how can rapid prototyping happen with limited resources at ideation stage with entrepreneurial team of one or two members?
Right. So this is where you'll have to be very creative. Now, the rapid prototyping stage actually does not require you to have a lot of resources. In fact, it is best if you do not have a lot of resources to do rapid prototyping. And like I said, rapid prototyping means thinking with your hands. Uh, so again, I'll just give you an example. At UPenn, when we were given a design challenge wherein we had to design a new wallet that people would have. And what the professor did for us was they said that, okay, you have 5 minutes. Now, what that meant was that literally you could not even you did not even have time to think, and you kind of had to design this wallet for your fellow participant. So the way you prototype is you ask them what is most meaningful to them. You try and see like you try to know some of the things that they spend time on and the things that they enjoy doing. You make a picture of what could be most meaningful to them, and then design an experience for them that will be meaningful. So, for example, uh, one of my partners who knew that I like writing and I like traveling. So what she did was in a very quickly, she just created a A4 sheet, put uh, the the clay that you have, and she kind of created a wallet formed shape in which she created a world map on front of that wallet, and as and when the country that I traveled to, I could scratch off the map. Now it wasn't perfect. In 5 minutes, whatever she could create, she created, but it gave me a sense of the kind of wallet that I will like. And that is what you need to do. Even with limited resources, what you need to do is you need to really think through what is this person is going to like, and just create something that that person can like touch and feel. Because um, I'll tell you something about psychology. And again, if you are interested, look up this guy. He teaches at MIT. Earlier, he was with Duke. His name is Dan Ariely. One of the best thinkers that I've ever heard. And he did this experiment wherein he did Lego experiments with college graduates, and he told them that, look, here are a piece of Legos. Create a shape out of it, and then after you've created the shape, you will be asked to kind of uh, purchase it, and whatever money that you are willing to pay. If I accept it, I'll give you this Lego, and I'll take it and take the money from you. The whole experiment happened across hundreds of students. The key thing that came out of it was that once you have created something, howsoever terrible it looks, you tend to overvalue it. Your emotional connect with it increases because you've experienced it. That is the thing with rapid prototyping. You don't need a lot of resources. You just need to create something with the least amount of resources that you have, and increase that emotional connect for both you and your team and your customers, so that they're able to evaluate it and understand how they need to take it, uh, move forward with it. So in rapid prototyping, just ensure that it is actually is beneficial for you if you do not have too many resources to waste. I hope it answers the question.
Thank you, Rishabh. Moving on to the last question. Now, a lot of the entrepreneurs have asked this question. Could you suggest any good books to get in-depth knowledge on design thinking? And also, one of them even went on and asked for a good to suggest you a good suggest them a good institute wherein they can get a certification course on design thinking or something. So, if you could suggest some good books or an institute, that would be really nice.
Okay, so a couple of things. The first is uh, bo- there are there are a lot of books written on design thinking, but I think none better than this book written by David and Tom Kelly, founders of IDEO. They've written this book called Startup by Design, which is actually like the book that you need to read. And if you read nothing else but that book, I think that suffices for understanding what design thinking is. So, and again, available widely in India as well. So feel free to grab a copy of that book. In terms of courses, so Coursera runs a course in collaboration with Darden University, which, according to me, right now, in terms of all the resources available out there, is the most well balanced course for somebody who wants to get introduced to the concept of design thinking and move forward in that process. So that is one course I would recommend them to do to start with. You have resources from Stanford Design School, which are great, but they are yet to kind of design a curriculum for say somebody who's coming to the design thinking for the first time. Uh, so yeah, in terms of as a starting point, the Startup by Design book by David and Tom Kelly from IDEO, And in terms of course, this Darden course on design thinking offered through Coursera, these would be my top two recommendations.
Thank you.
And yeah, and Coursera in collaboration with Darden also provides you certification. And if you wanted to, let's say, after doing this online course, if you wanted to continue your studies, they also have a residency program wherein you go to Dart and study for 15 days, and then for the remaining 6-7 months, I don't know if they've changed the structure of it, but for the remaining 6 and 7 months, you study remotely. So they kind of give you an opportunity to go and experience and study in a collaborative setting with professor and with other people from around the world as well. But a good starting point would be University of Virginia, Darden School of Business, course on design thinking offered through Coursera.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Rishabh, for that interesting session. Thank you to all our attendees for participating in the webinar. We are glad that the questions kept coming in, but due to lack of time, we are unable to answer all. If you found the session interesting, please feel free to blog or post about it. The recorded version of the webinar will be available on YouTube. Thank you once again and have a nice evening. Thank you, Rishabh. Thanks so much for the lovely presentation.
No, thank you so much for uh, inviting me, and thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share this content. I hope people found it useful and happy to participate again. Thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you. Bye. Have a nice evening.